Hey guys, what's up? It is time for another video with an innocent American. Before I get into the video today, I just want to say that I would really appreciate if whoever watches this, if you could just leave a comment below and let me know what you did or did not like and how you think I can improve. That being said, today is a reaction video about the upbringing differences in countries around the world. I saw this video and decided I would make a reaction to it because I actually have two kids of my own. I thought it would be interesting to see how parents raise their children around the globe. And let's get started.
Hello, friends. Do you want to talk about education?
No! No, 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 no!
No, don't worry. We're not going to ask you how you're doing at school or whether you clean the dishes after dinner. It's much more interesting to look at the education systems around the world, because in every country, children are treated differently. This depends on mentality, lifestyle, and even the weather of each country. But how different is education, for example, in Mexico and in the US? Let's figure it out. Oh, wait. First, a small disclaimer. All the information in this video is taken
All approaches to education individuals,
from open sources. All approaches to the education are individual, so don't blame us if you and your family do something different. Deal?
Yes, 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 yes!
Excellent. Now, let's get it on. Japanese upbringing. You've probably heard that little Japanese kids are allowed everything. That is, literally everything, from standing on their head to chewing on the cat. And you know, this is practically truth. From birth to the age of 5, Japanese kids have a so-called permissiveness period, where they're allowed to do whatever they want without worrying about being punished by their parents. Well, within reasonable limits, of course. No one will let a kid play on the road or hug a rattlesnake. But if a child wants to draw on the walls, then he draws, with dirt, in the middle of the night, and do other cool things. The Japanese believe that the early years are a time for fun, games, and enjoyment. Of course, this doesn't mean that Japanese kids are absolutely spoiled. They are taught courtesy, good manners, and feeling part of the state and the society. Mum and dad never raise their voices when talking to their children, and don't give them many-hour lectures. Physical punishment is also excluded. The only thing that parents do is explain to the child why one shouldn't behave like this. However, by the time of admission to school, the attitude of adults to children changes drastically. Their behavior is strictly regulated. They need to treat parents and teachers respectfully, wear the same clothes, and don't stand out among their peers. This is why people say that until 5 years, Japanese treat a child like a king, from 5 to 15 years like a slave, and only after 15 like an equal. German up.
So yeah, that's kind of interesting on the Japanese. I kind of knew that they had a strict upbringing. I didn't realize that they had free range when they were young. I feel like that's actually probably a really good practice to do because that gives the child free range of just kind of like develop of who they are and what their interests are, and then as a parent or teacher, you can kind of see what their strong points are. It kind of reminds me of a thing called Montessori. I'm not for sure if it's the same, but that's actually becoming kind of more commonplace over here in the States. It's a private school and it's kind of expensive, but a lot of parents are sending their children to a Montessori school around like 2 to 6, I think. So I don't know if that's similar, but it sounds a little similar, just giving them like free range, letting them play outside, stuff like that.
Upbringing. From a very early age, the life of German children is subject to strict rules. They're not allowed to sit in front of the television or computer for a long time, and they have to go to bed really early. From the moment they're born, children learn punctuality and organisation. At first, mums take babies with them using a baby sling or a stroller. And then when their parents go to work, the kids stay with nannies, who usually have a medical qualification. The child always has his own room, which was designed...
Okay, so yeah, that is a huge difference than America, because most of the time they just get stuck with whatever, usually it's whichever one is the cheapest babysitter, not the most qualified. I know those parents that probably do background checks, but those are probably more your middle class. Your average person is really just the cheapest, most convenient babysitter. So that is kind of a sad thing that we have over here.
by him, and which is his legal territory, where a lot of things are allowed to him. But behind the wall begins the realm of the White Walkers. I mean, in all the other rooms there are parental rules. By the way, German mums try to raise independent children, and if the baby falls then he must stand up by himself, and so on. From the age of 3, children in Germany go to the kindergarten, but they are not taught to write or count. Instead, experienced educators explain how to behave in a team, and kids can do anything: run, play cars, paint, and so on. French
Yeah, I think Germany homeschooling might be semi-illegal. At least that's what I've heard. I actually have some relatives that live over there, and most of my heritage is German background. My grandfather was German, so they're a little similar, I guess, to the Japanese, on the sense that they kind of let the kids free range when they're so young. But it's definitely a different
upbringing. In this European country, people pay a lot of attention to the early development of children. Most of all, French mothers try to teach independence to their children because women go back to work early, striving to realize themselves, so they need to be sure that the child feels comfortable. In addition, parents don't believe that their personal life ends after the baby's born. On the contrary, they differentiate the time for the child and for themselves, so when they put a baby to sleep, mum and dad can spend some time with each other. French women treat the kids gently, paying attention only to really serious misconduct. Mums reward them for good behaviour and deprive of gifts or treats for bad behaviour. Pretty simple, isn't it? Before entering school, French kids spend most of their time in kindergartens and all kinds of entertaining studios, because parents, as we've said, don't get stuck on their offspring and devote a lot of time to themselves. Also, people say that French children don't spit food at all. Probably because they're taught not to, or it's probably because of the famous French cuisine. Swedish upbringing. This may seem surprising, but the attitude toward children in Sweden was greatly influenced by the book of famous writer Astrid Lindgren. In the beginning of the last century, it was customary in Scandinavia to treat children strictly, and sometimes even severely. But after Lindgren's literary activity, that attitude changed completely. It's no coincidence that Sweden was one of the first countries to adopt laws aimed at protecting kids' rights. Nowadays, even very small Swedish children know their rights, although no one is mean to kids, and not only because it leads to huge fines, just because it's bad. Nobody should do that. Swedes use golden middle way in everything. Treat a child as you would like to be treated yourself. Therefore, kids have the right to be heard, to have an explanation in his or her parents' time. Not surprisingly, Swedish children are considered to be the happiest kids in the world. They can do anything, even bathe in the mud if they want to. And most importantly, no one will punish them for playing. Scandinavian mums and dads believe this activity hardens the immune system of the child and helps his body cope with the attack of many viruses. And it's also cool. Well, who in their childhood didn't want to splash in the mud, huh? Honestly, we'd like to be a child in Sweden. Would you?
Yes, 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 yes!
Great video. Yeah, I've heard Swedish has a lot of really good, I think it's Sweden that has like all the governmental daycare and all the paid time off for parents and stuff. So yeah, it's just really cool to see all these other countries making kids such a priority. I mean, they're the next generation, so it is important. And I before we watch this part, I mean, I don't know, I kind of feel like the U.S. I know the U.S. is slacking a lot, so let's go ahead and watch this and see what they say about the U.S.
Uprising in the U.S. Most Americans worship their families. Although parents and grandparents often live in different states, at Christmas and Thanksgiving, all family members like to get together at one big table and, well, try very hard not to quarrel. As for the upbringing, little Americans rarely go to kindergartens. Housewives prefer to raise the children by themselves, although they don't always look after them. Therefore, girls and boys go to school without knowing how to read or write. Almost every child in an average American family from an early age is in some sports club and plays for the school sports team. Yes, it's not just a movie stereotype, it's really like this. Having reached a certain age, American children try to leave their parents' home and move into a college dormitory or a rented apartment because they value their independence. And it's quite difficult to be independent when you regularly have your mum's pancakes for breakfast. By the way, modern young Americans are real experts in legal norms, and often children complain about their parents to court for infringement of their rights. Perhaps this is because society pays great attention to explaining children's freedoms and developing individuality, and you cannot say that it's bad, just a bit strange, kind of. Mexican.
Yeah, Sally, that's a pretty good example of America. Yeah, most kids stay at the home until they're 4 or 5. Then they or they're like babysitter while the parents work. They usually go to kindergarten first thing, and you just go to school till you're 17, 18. You graduate, go to college for 4 or 5 years. Yeah, I kind of wish that there was less focus on sports and more focus on kind of what they showed in the early stages, just letting the child develop. And I don't know, I just feel like there's better things than sports. Now, I'm not a sports person, so I could be getting in trouble for that, but I just feel as a child, like, if they want to do sports, great, let them do them, but don't, like, make every single kid, especially, like, 5 years old, join football and soccer and stuff. I mean, unless you're just really naturally good at it, but I don't know, it seems like most people, they spend so much time doing football or soccer, basketball, whatever in high school, and then they go to college, and when they get out of college, like, none of that benefits them. I'm sure there's like statistics and stuff, but I mean, just if all that other time was spent developing, I don't know, like a skill, like a musical skill, or learning a different language, that's one thing I really think America should focus on more, is learning different languages, since most other countries are bilingual. I definitely feel like that's something we're lacking in. So, I'm not trying to dig on America. I am American, but that's just how it is.
In upbringing. Unlike their northern neighbours, Mexicans begin to educate and teach their little children quite early. At the age of 2 or 3 years, little Mexicans pass from the loving hands of their parents to educators and psychologists, since preschool education in Mexico is mandatory, so it's advisable to go to nursery and then to kindergarten, where kids play and learn how the world works. And even if Mexican parents don't want to part with their baby, by the way, both mums and dads stay with the kids, they still have to accept it. Despite the huge parental love, some Mexican families practice physical punishment, but if adults need to argue for some reason, they'll never do it in the presence of the children, so as to not upset them. In general,
That's interesting about the preschool. As an American, obviously, I kind of disagree with being forced to put your kids into something if you don't want them to agree with it, but it's still interesting that they do that.
I must say that the Mexican children live well at home, so they leave late and without much joy. Parents also don't like it when their children leave the house, so the farewell is kind of partial. Family members support each other throughout their lives and constantly visit each other, because family is very important. Italian upbringing. Italians love their children and consider them to be real gifts, regardless of their temper. Children are loved, and not only by their parents, uncles, aunts and grandparents, but by all those who meet them, from the bartender to the newspaper seller. All babies are getting so much attention that it can even scare you at first if you're not used to it.
Joey, bravo, bellissimo! Oh.
But don't worry if you are a parent and a passerby decided to pat your child on the cheeks. You are in Italy. Relax.
Hey, how are you? Piacere. Paulie? Christopher? Ciao.
Unlike German and French families, it's considered bad taste to take the baby to the kindergarten. The kid must grow up in a family, surrounded by close and distant relatives who will pamper him as much as possible. Italian kids are allowed to do anything: make noise, shout, fool around, not listen to adults, and play for hours on the street. By the way, men and women share the responsibility for raising the child, especially if it's a baby girl. In Italy, if they say, if it's a girl, it's father's joy. Upbringing.
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool about being so family oriented. It's definitely something I see lacking in America and other countries. is not really focusing on family, but focusing on the parents go to work, the kids go to school, and then you just don't spend much time together at home. It'd be nice if there was a way to like have kind of the best of both worlds and do a little bit of both, but definitely more focus on the family is kind of what I agree with.
In African countries. Raising a child in Africa is not an easy task. Countries in Africa have different living conditions, and there are not kindergartens, schools, or good education everywhere. But motherly love without overprotection is found everywhere on the continent. African mothers prefer to constantly carry their children with them using slings and give the maximum attention to the baby. Therefore, little Africans almost never get fussy because there's no point if mum's around, right? There's no such thing as daily routine. Children eat, walk, and sleep when they want to. And grown-up kids spend most of their time on the street with their peers and run wherever they want. But don't think that all this time they're closely watched by their mother, ready to rush to wipe a little son or daughter on their nose. African children very early become independent. According to statistics, almost all the kids by the age of 2 can not only wash their face and hands, clean up and wash dishes, but they can even make simple purchases and help take care of newborn babies. Up to 6 or 7 years of age, the mother is fully engaged in the child's life, but later only the daughters remain with her, and the sons of the clan are educated by the men of the clan. Amazing gadgets, upcoming technologies, incredible inventions, and other cool stuff related to high tech on Tech Zone. Subscribe, you won't regret it. The link.
Let's end the video. Okay. Well, yeah. There is one thing I do read about an African tribe, like something they do with their babies. They like it's called scarification, and once the baby's born, they have to like scar the chest area, and then I think for the male, maybe it's just for the males, but then like to become a man, they have to finish all the scarification without screaming or crying or something. So yeah, there's definitely some weird. I don't know. Cultures are so interesting and weird, but yeah, I feel kind of bad for Africa. But I mean, I've read quite a few books and stuff, and it seems like they do pretty good. But for the normal book schooling and stuff, they definitely need more of that. But they focus on family and living, so I guess that's good. So anyway, yeah, I guess that is it for this video. Again, if you've watched this, please just comment below. Let me know how I can improve, what I can do. And if you want to like or subscribe, just go ahead. But I intend on making more videos and figuring this out and getting it to where you guys like it, hopefully. So that's it for today. Thanks.